Welcome to the Truth Podcast. I'm your host, Hany Rambod. I'm here with my co-host, Austin, and we are here to talk about not only questions, but to also give you answers. But the Q&As have been super fire, and we've been digging through not only my Instagram messages that I've been getting on my Q&A posts, but also YouTube. For all those of you that are really going out of your way to repost, it really helps the algorithm, liking, subscribing, turning on your notifications. I have probably almost 250,000 followers. I think we're just at
right around there.
And I feel like a lot of them have been around for a while watching my old videos, but they haven't turned on their notifications. So if you're listening to this, make sure you turn on your notifications, make sure you like, you comment, because it really helps the algorithm. And then it just makes us want to go even further with being able to give you the best content possible. So again, thank you for all that are sharing and commenting. And now we're on to our Q&A. We're almost 14 weeks out from the Olympia too.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, man, it's coming up quick.
Yes, it is.
Starting to see a lot of update photos popping up, and then all of it, it didn't really hit me until I started seeing people actually posting updates. I'm like, oh shoot, we're getting close. So you ready to go?
Let's do this.
All right. So first question, you've covered a little bit before, but just kind of to elaborate a bit more on it. When is the best time for cardio? Post workout?
Yeah, we talk about this a lot. For those that are off season, I like post workout. And then for those, just again, heart health, just keeping your weight down in regards to, I should say your body fat down and in check, post workout. If you are looking to compete or you're looking for dramatic amount of fat loss, fasted cardio. First thing in the morning, take your thermogenic, add a little bit of carnitine. I always want to say Carnigen because that's my product, but I had to stop myself. So take that 20 minutes before, go ahead and just pop on the treadmill. If you have one at the house, if you hopefully have one nearby. If you don't, I do recommend you just go outside and do cardio, especially if you're in a situation where you can do outside cardio and the weather isn't too bad. I know that some of you will drive 45 minutes to the gym, come back. I don't like that, especially for my competitive athletes, because then they're waiting longer to eat, and it just kind of screws up a lot of things. So if you
get burnt out from that too.
You do. So try to just do something at home. Go on Craigslist, find a cheap treadmill, especially if you have something where you can just throw it in the garage, where you can just put a treadmill. There's somebody that's using one for a clothing rack somewhere.
That's very common. Yes. Yeah, they're out there.
Yeah. I think 80 to 90% of all cardio equipment is mostly used for clothing.
That's a very accurate statistic.
Yeah. And so go out and get one. It's like furniture. People who have these machines, it costs a lot to get, depending on the brand, but it could be anywhere from $400 or $500 for the really, cheap models, all the way up to $3,000 or $4,000, $5,000 for the gym quality treadmills or any pieces of cardio equipment. But when they go to sell them, just like your used couch, it's worth a fraction. So you can pick one up. There's no excuses. As long as you have a little bit of room, you can pick one up. Just make sure it's not one that's dialed in 220 volt, because if it's 220 volt, then you're going to have to pay an electrician to go out there and try to make the adjustment. So if you have you want to get a regular, not a commercial treadmill, because believe it or not, it's a pain in the ass and it costs a lot of money to have to switch that up. So if you have the ability to just get a regular treadmill, just get that, throw it in the garage, switch your nuts off, and go ahead and do that. Because I know most places aren't like California, where it's a very temperate summer.
Oh, in the garage here, you'd be pouring.
Yes. Yeah. And I shouldn't even say that, because California got hit with this heat wave. They're in the middle of a heat wave now. My friends have hit me up from Northern California. It was 106 up in San Jose.
Yeah, that's like some Texas heat there.
Yes, and we were at 90. So
I wonder, actually, when you were saying that, I was thinking, I wonder if there's an uptick in equipment right now, resales, or not, just because everything got bought up so fast from COVID. That I wonder if things are just trickling back out on the market because people aren't using them anymore.
There might be. If people are going back to the gym, there's a possibility. But some people are probably just still setting up their home gyms. So that's a possibility too. But these treadmills are outside of that scope. People buy treadmills all the time because they feel like they're going to use them, or any kind of cardio equipment for the home. So if you're serious and you're on a budget, go on Craigslist. And if they're asking $400 or $500 for it, you can go ahead and offer them $250, especially if it's been on there for a while. Just give them something, or if they're asking $300 for it, you can go ahead and, because sometimes they're just like, come and take it.
Takes up a lot of space.
Yeah, because the wife or the husband says, just get it out of the space or they're moving. Yeah. So take that opportunity.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. This is kind of on the same kind of vein of that, but it's just talking about what is the best thing to eat if you're training early and like, something to have before you work out.
Okay. So this question gets asked to me all the time. It really depends on how close you're going to train to your meal. Mm-hmm. If it's something super light, then it's maybe some oats or mixed oats inside of a blender in with your protein shake, because it's a grab and go type of situation. So there's a lot of people that nowadays are training fasted. There's nothing wrong with that, especially if your energy levels are pretty balanced and you want to take a pre-workout, whether it's stim or non-stim. Most of the time in the mornings, people will reach towards the stimulant based and let the caffeine do it. Yeah. And then even maybe do somewhat of a fasted training session. And that's okay too. But if you're going to do that, I would throw some aminos in there just to help with catabolism, making sure to minimize that. And what happens is if you're going to have a little bit longer time frame before you eat to when you train, you can do a whole meal. So normally that's egg whites, a little bit of oatmeal or cream of rice, something that digests really quickly. Some people do really well with oatmeal. Some people, they get a little bit bloated with oatmeal, depending on how much you're taking in and whether you're a competitive bodybuilder or you're just somebody who's training. Now, if somebody's just training, you don't have to do huge amounts of food. You just need something to help you get through the workout. Yeah. If you're a competitive bodybuilder, especially an open bodybuilder, you're going to need to be doing 60, 70, 100 grams of carbs worth. And normally it's not as high as 100, but there are, some of those big boys out there, you know what I'm talking about. They're doing 100 grams of carbs per meal.
And you need time to process that.
500 or 600 is easy. Yeah. But Mohammed Fuda is doing 500-600 grams and he's dieting. Yeah.
Oh, shit,
he's dieting at 500-600.
Oh, man.
Right? So, and he can eat. Yeah. And he's not the biggest guy either. So, but he is an open bodybuilder and he does eat easily 500 to 600 grams of carbs a day. Now, most of the people that are listening to this are not going to fall in that category. Yeah. So what you have to do is you have to say, am I getting bloated from that meal because I don't have enough time to digest it? Then if that's the case, then you need to go over into probably a protein shake type of situation, something that's easily digested, but also with maybe some light carbs, anywhere from 25 to 50 grams of carbs from oats or cream of rice, and being able to do that. And if you are really getting even bloated from that, then maybe even trying to do something with some aminos, some essential amino acids, along with a pre-workout. And you have to balance out the caffeine depending on what your body can do. A lot of people drink coffee and they just go train. Yeah. It's okay. It's just a matter of just saying, well, is it going to give you vasodilation? No. No. Is it going to get you some energy? Sure. You're going to get some energy from it, but it's not going to get you all of those performance enhancing things that a full on pre-workout is going to do. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, kind of in that same, kind of mindset as well, or thought process, best time to take Carnigen? Carnigen. So again, carnitine. I'm a huge believer in L-carnitine. There's many different kinds of L-carnitine. There's mostly out there you see L-carnitine tartrate. Yeah. Carnigen has 4 different types of carnitine. So it's tartrate, fumarate. It's also got acetyl. So it's also got orotate. My particular reason of mixing them, because there are some benefits of doing acetyl, which is going to give you a little bit more brain buzz and give you a little bit of focus, where the other L-carnitines are more for fat burning. And I feel that a non-stim fat burner like carnitine goes a long way. Now, I also like the fact that it also helps with recovery. So before doing fasted cardio, I recommend it, but later on in the day, doing another dose. And that's usually 1 to 2 grams twice a day. So total of 2 to 4 grams a day. Okay. Minimum 2, up to 4. That's what I recommend. Awesome. Yeah, this one's pretty straight to the point. How do I stay on my diet and not fuck it up? That's what I'm telling you. We're getting some great questions. People are just getting their point across right away. How do you not fuck up your diet? Yeah. So the key is to, number 1, have meal prep. You have to have some type of meal prep situation where you're not going to have to make bad decisions when you're hungry. Don't go to the grocery store when you're hungry. See, I learned that as a hack though, because if you're hungry and you go to the grocery store, you buy more food. You not only buy more food, you're more likely to buy shit that you're not supposed to eat. Yes, exactly. Right? Yeah. So that's it. So how's it a hack? I'm just saying that I end up with more food. So that's the no, I'm just messing. No, I think don't listen to that. If you are dieting, don't go to the grocery store while you're hungry. Yes. That's number 1. 100%. Number 2, make sure you have your food all planned out. For the day, you know, if you're really, really good, you know, in terms of your organization level, then you want to be able to do it for the week. I don't recommend making food for the whole week because the food, if it's not fresh and doesn't taste good, you're not going to eat it.
Yeah.
So minimum every 3 days. If you have the ability for someone to cook for you, then kudos to you. But if you don't and you have to cook yourself, then you can do every 2 to 3 days and try to keep it fresh. Put it in meal prep containers, or you can turn around and measure it out per meal. Either way, whatever's more convenient for you. Some people like to measure it out and have it all set up, and you see those pictures on Sunday of like 18 meals.
That was me yesterday.
Right. Yeah. So it's 18 meals. It's my 6 meals for my 3 days. That's okay. Just whatever works for you, but make it taste good. Make sure you try to keep it as fresh as possible. And if you are not competing, keep it lively. Keep it where it's something that you're going to not feel like you're eating cardboard. Season it. Don't cut the salt out. That's another thing a lot of people make a huge mistake on. I'm going to cut my sodium out because I want to live dry 6 weeks out, 10 weeks out, 12 weeks out. You're going to reduce performance that way.
Yeah.
You will, 100%. So you're sweating, especially if it's in the summer months, even more so. Doing cardio, you're trying to focus on fat loss. Your body's not going to retain a lot of water because your carbs are a bit below. You're at a net deficit in calories. Sodium is your friend, not only when it comes to performance, but also taste, so that it keeps things tasting good. If it tastes like shit, you're not going to eat it. Then you're going to crave some kind of in and out, whatever. Next thing you know, you're going to be going and making really bad decisions.
Well, I think it's just that mindset that weirdly a lot of people have of the super hardcore, have to suffer, all of that. You can.
No, there's ways around that. Yeah. I mean, especially now with the technology we have today with great seasonings, you know, I just think that people find a way out because they just really, for a lack of a term, lack of a better term, they become, I don't want to call them a bitch. Stop listening to your inner bitch voice. And you have to sit down and create an accountability structure.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing. If you want to be able to stick to a diet, if you're going to get on stage, you don't want to embarrass yourself or your coach or whoever you're working with. That's number one. Number two, if you're not doing a show, you still have to create some kind of a calendar of accountability. So weekly, you're doing pictures that you're going to either share with whoever you're working with, your support team, whether it's a coach, whether it's your workout partner, where you're taking photos together, or, and again, this is at the very least once a week. I have a lot of my athletes do it every 3 days as we get closer, and then every day. But you have to have some type of accountability check-in process. That has to be a part of it. And you have to have goals. If you don't have goals for 4, 8, 12 weeks, I don't like to do anything more than 16 weeks. That's a little bit drawn out, but on average about 12. What it does is it allows you to understand how to hit milestones every 3 to 4 weeks for that particular goal. But if you don't have that, it's like going on vacation without having an itinerary.
Yeah.
You don't know if you're going to have a good time or not because you don't even know where you're going. You don't know where you're staying. You're like, hey, you know, and chances are you're not going to get very far, and it's not going to be the result that you're looking for. So put those goals together. Make sure that every 3 to 4 weeks, you understand what the goal is in regards to your body fat loss and what the look is that you're trying to achieve. Putting all of those things together are going to allow you to stick to your diet, your program, as well as your cardio regimen.
And that accountability is so important.
Yeah, because if you don't have accountability, you're going to end up just kind of falling off the map and just starting all over again and starting all over. And then you just end up getting into this really vicious cycle of never getting really far.
Awesome. This is, I know, is a very, very prominently asked question. What are your thoughts on waist trainers?
Oh, you know, I know men and women that use waist trainers, and I feel that they work well, but I feel like sometimes they can be abused. And I think that some, especially women, they tend to really go crazy with them.
Some people sleep in them and things like that. Like,
I think you have to really consider the cost versus benefit on that, because I've had people complain to me that they said, hey, I've been using a waist trainer. What do you think? Because my organs hurt, my ribs hurt, you know, like they feel like the inners are starting to get to the point where it's just painful.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be doing that. I think there's a balance between that, especially if you're prepping and you're finding a girl who is also, who's prepped, who's a pro or non-pro, but that's prepped a lot of other women. You will find kind of that balance of pain versus benefit.
Yeah.
But do they work? Absolutely. They're, with breathing, they temporarily bring in your waist. But what you need to do is you need to say, is this worth it? Is this really worth it? Because if you're looking for pain and continuous pain, that's not, I don't think that's conducive of a healthy result.
Yeah.
And even though we're not doing the most healthy things, going really low on body fat and getting extreme, but you don't want to get to the point where you're having your insides hurt.
Yeah.
And so I feel like everything is in moderation at this level. So you have to just try to feel it out. And if your bone structure, if you have a really short torso and your bone structure is literally to the point where you are putting a waist trainer over your ribs and all those things, you could have a lot of problems and a lot of pain. So I think everybody has to take a different look at it of cost versus benefit. What's the pain cost versus what are you going to get out of the benefit?
I think the breathing part is a really interesting one that I don't hear a lot of people talk about, because the whole reason I do at certain parts of my prep is just because it reminds me while doing cardio to breathe only in kind of to keep my core tight while I'm breathing, which helps me with posing on stage. So that way I'm not just like breathing through my stomach all the time and everything. Because that's the main thing I noticed from it, was just like I could focus on where I'm actually breathing and what I'm keeping tight and not. But yeah, I think most of the time people just think you're just going to crush your waist inward, and that's actually how it's going to benefit you. But
no, I think a lot of it can also be done with just wearing a belt. Yeah. So if you wear a belt and you cinch your belt and it helps you with your breathing as well, you're going to get a lot of those benefits from that without having to wear a waist trainer. But keeping your core tight and making sure that you are able to work your abdominals and your core in the off season is going to help tremendously. It's when you don't and you have a really weak abdominal wall, that's when you start getting into problems and you start breathing through your stomach, and then you start getting a lot of that protrusion. Everyone thinks it's insulin and growth hormone. It's not. It's just even overeating. I've seen people who couldn't afford any of those things, right? And not to say that insulin is expensive. It's not. But I'm just talking about like even the growth hormone thing where they said, oh, it's a GH belly or this or that. It's not. It's just a weak abdominal. And can that exacerbate it? And yes, taking all of those kinds of drugs can exacerbate your midsection. But just overeating alone can do it too. So you have to be careful, because you could stretch your stomach to that point even without the drugs. Now, the drugs can absolutely amplify that, but I just want everybody to know that just overeating alone can do it as well. So eating the small meals, making sure you're not bloating, making sure you're maximizing your digestion, making sure you train your abs, even in the off season. A lot of people just don't like training abs because you don't see your abs most of the year. And so therefore they think that, hey, I'm just going to leave this alone, and then I'm just going to do some crunches, getting ready for the show. Even a lot of top pros do that. They just don't like training their abs. But you're only as strong as your weakest link. And if you have a weak midsection, not only could you end up not looking dialed in the midsection when you get ready for the show, but you could also end up getting hurt because of the fact that you have a weak core. So you need to be able to work all of your muscles. It's like being quad dominant and then having issues with your hamstrings, because next thing you know, oh, my knee's messed up. Well, it's because you didn't have a good balance between your quad strength and your hamstring strength. Same thing with your abs. Oh, you have lower back pain. Well, your lower back pain's there because your abdominals are not very strong. So a lot of that can really help balance each other out. So you need to make sure that everything is in balance. And a lot of people leave the midsection towards the last 3 or 4 weeks. And you have to train them in the off season, and you have to make sure that you're working them even when you can't see them.
That is such an interesting thing, because everybody does it, and it's like you're not making improvements in those you're not going to build up abs in the last 4 weeks of a prep or whatever. It's not like you're trying to make improvements on your arms. It's like the only muscle group that people try to do that with is they try to improve them during prep in that way.
It's homework. It's people don't like doing homework till the night before. I was that way. Not particularly with my abs when I was competing, but when it came to a lot of homework, I just I don't have to do this. I'm going to procrastinate. Before the Procreator, I was a procrastinator. And so I just feel like, we'll hold off, especially the stuff you're not interested in.
Yes. All right. This is actually this is a very interesting one. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on it. Any suggestions for stretch marks?
Absolutely. I think that when you start going into growing phases, you start getting that dry skin. I think dry skin and stretch marks go hand in hand. So you need to keep your skin hydrated. So making sure you put a really good amount of lotion on when you get out of the shower, when your skin is the driest. After using soap, it tends to dry out. So you really want to apply that as much as possible so that you minimize stretch marks. So when you start to itch, those stretch marks, that's because your skin is starting to pull. That's why you're getting itchy. So you got to just use a lot of lotion. Some people like to use coconut butter. Go ahead and find the brand and the product that works best for you. But the key is to keep it hydrated. And if it's itching, chances are it's stretching. So make sure that you stay on top of that with constant hydration from the minute you get out of the shower to possibly later on the day. If you have oily skin and you don't have that problem with the itch, then chances are you're not going to get it at all. It's not as likely to get the stretch marks. But all in all, to be safe, always hydrate your skin.
Is there anything you can do about them if you already have them, or is it?
I know that some people go out and have done laser, and there's some other things you can do with some cosmetic therapies on that. But how well they work, I think, also depends on your skin tone. And I think that the best way to deal with that is to try not to get them. And that's just to keep your skin super hydrated.
All right. I know that this is going to be a very interesting one for several people. People want to know how much your coaching fees are. We have several questions on that.
I think I get about 10 to 20 of those with every Q&A I post up on the IG.
We're finally bringing it up.
What are my coaching fees? So it's been a while where I have done worked with an athlete with just a pure coaching fee alone, because normally they've been part of the brand. Everything that I've done has been very strategic. So it's not just about me getting a fee. It's been something where I said, hey, look, if you want to be a part of the brand, it's going to be different. So I customize everything. Even back when I was bringing on more amateurs, I customized it depending on how long in the off season, how many times I thought I was going to see that person. So there isn't a really black and white, here's my rate sheet, here you go. Would you like to pick a la carte versus, the entree? I think that the key has always been for me to understand what the goal is. And because some people I work with don't prep, they don't do shows. They're getting ready for just life. They just want to be the best version of themselves, or they're getting ready for a photo shoot, or they're getting ready for an anniversary, and they're an executive at a company. And I've been able to work with them on a couple of different levels, not just on the coaching of the nutrition training, but also on some of the mindset things that they're working on to try to make sure that they can elevate. So some of that has been kind of worked in. So I customize it depending on what it is. So it can be as low as, $5,000 or $10,000, for some small little projects that I've done, very, very small. And then it goes upwards of much higher.
Well, you gave me some tips on my arms the other day, and then I got an invoice 3 hours later. So
I just took it out of your paycheck.
Well, isn't that one of the top things that pops up when you Google you? I think when you Google you, one of the first things that pops up is
how much my fees are. Yeah. So I think that, again, like those smaller projects, I put something on it, but I don't do them very often. But again, it's a small little, hey, like, can you do a workout for me? Can you do some basic things? Absolutely. If I have the time for it. Normally I don't. So I don't do them very often. But I think the last time I did do it, and it was something that was really like, hey, adjust some diets. Maybe somebody came in for one workout and I did something custom. But for the most part, they're longer term clients, and it's something where it could or could not. It doesn't have to always be around competition. It's just a matter of just making sure that we understand what the goal is. And then I put something custom together for that.
Awesome.
But yeah, because I know everyone's going to want some number, so I threw it out there, but it's just kind of starting out at that point and then working your way up. Yeah. So again, it's all custom.
All right. Very hard hitting one. I know that, you get this question all the time. Are UFOs real?
Wow. You went straight Rogan on me. Are UFOs real? Let me tell you, I think so 100%. I think that we're this little dot in the universe. And if you don't think that there's other people out there, I should say other living beings, I think you're mistaken.
So your justification is just how vast everything is, that it has to be.
Yes. Now, if you ask me, are UFOs real and are they here? That's questionable, because if I said that there might be UFOs among us, I would say that the closest thing that I know to a UFO is probably Elon Musk.
I thought you were going to say Ronnie Coleman.
Yeah, Ronnie Coleman would be, he was definitely, in terms of the specimen of a UFO. I remember seeing him in 2003 and he looked like he had just landed his UFO ship on top of the Mandalay Bay. And he looked like he came out there and he was like, take me to your leader.
There's no way that's human.
No. And in terms of physique capability, absolutely. Guys like Ronnie Coleman and Jay Cutler and some of these guys, they look like they're from another planet. But when I think that in the vast universe, are UFOs real? I do. I still think they use lightning just to light up their ships, to recharge their ships.
Well, technically this said UFOs. It didn't even say aliens. So there's a lot of unidentified flying objects out there.
Yeah.
I had a drone fly past my window the other day and I'm on the 12th floor and this thing flew. I jumped out like it was just, I was, you're not expecting to see something.
Did you think it was a UFO?
For a second, I was like, what's going on? Because this light up thing came within probably 10 feet of my window and you're not expecting something to fly around up there. So, I mean, I had a moment. It was just a drone.
I wonder how many of those UFO sightings were really like large drones that they haven't really discussed.
Yeah. Tons. Because even just for like movie production and things like that, they have drones, that are 10 feet across that are kind of, covered.
But why couldn't they make a drone that looks like a UFO ship?
They probably already have 100%. Yeah. And then have you seen those drone shows where they have like hundreds or thousands of drones that make large? I think that's going to be like the future of like fireworks almost.
I think we saw that in the Olympics, right? Didn't they do that in China?
Something like that. Because those are wild. And if you haven't seen something like that before, you're 100% going to think that's something crazy off in the distance.
Yeah, and then the way that they move and they're able to really adjust their flight patterns in a very, very linear manner that a plane can't. So that's why I always thought, hey, is somebody building out these crazy drones and everybody thinks that they're UFOs? It's a possibility. I mean, we're talking about it more than ever. Yeah. UFOs.
Well, it's because like the government released some stuff on it and everything. Right. And I think people weren't expecting that. This has officially turned into the Hany Rambod experience. This has completely changed all of a sudden.
Well, you gave me that question. We started talking about it. It's like, how does it relate to bodybuilding? Well, it's, we have these different types of physiques that look very alien-esque.
Yeah.
But I think that ultimately there is life on other planets. And it is yet to be determined if they've been here yet. But I would not be surprised if they already have.
Well, we'll see what happens. How many scoops of creatine should I take a day? Well, straight to bodybuilding back again. Bouncing around.
Normally 5 to 10 grams total. Okay. 5 to 10 grams total. So if you have it in your pre-workout, which a lot of pre-workouts have gotten rid of it because of the fact that they didn't want to add the additional expense. Yeah. We all know creatine works. It's a staple product. It works amazingly well. But some of the pre-workouts no longer have it in just due to cost or availability. So the key is to calculate up to 10 grams. And what I like to do is have about half of that in a pre-workout and then roughly a little bit more than half, let's just say 5 grams pre, 5 grams post. Just keep it super generic. About 4 to 5 grams pre, 4 to 5 grams post. There's been some studies that show that also adding in carbohydrates as well as protein might even help with the absorption of that. Because in the past, everybody used to do the whole grape juice, right? We just add in a little bit of fruit juice and that would help with the absorption. But when you're dieting, that's not ideal. So what you want to do, because you got to be careful of the insulin spikes, because that shuts off your fat burning. So that being said, you have to figure out what the cost versus benefit is, just like everything. You have to say, okay, if I'm off season, no problem. I'm going to go ahead and mix it up. I have my athletes mix it up with glycoject. So they mix it with glyco. It goes really, really well. Throw an extra 5 grams post with 25 to 50 grams of glycoject, which is a carbolin based. Then what they'll do is, depending on the body part, if it's a big body part, 50 grams. If it's a smaller body part, 25 grams. And they get also about 50 grams of whey protein isolate mixed in that as well. So I use unflavored glyco. We'll use whatever flavor of iso at about 50 grams of protein for the men, about 25 to 35 for the women. And they'll go ahead and throw in 25 to 50 grams of glyco for the carbohydrates. And again, 5 grams of creatine post-workout.
Easy. Get all of it in at once.
That's right.
Perfect.
That's right. Now, if you're dieting and you can't add all of those things in, but you're trying to maintain your size, you would obviously take out the glyco because you're trying to keep the carbs low and you got to be careful of insulin spikes. even though glyco doesn't spike your insulin like a dextrose would or any other kind of fast acting carb, but it's still something that I try to stay away from. So the other thing would be also, that's why I made CellChem, because it's kind of an all-in-one product without the carbohydrates to keep you full, but also help you with recovery. So that was the other reason why I made that, so that I can get a lot of the benefits post-workout without an insulin spike.
And just kind of tacking onto that, because I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on it. Do you believe in a loading phase of creatine? Because that was a thing for quite a while.
Yes and no. Yeah. So if someone's really depleted and hasn't used creatine for a long time, or if they're really big, like we'll say over 220 pounds, 230 pounds, what I do is I do like to go a little bit higher and then back down. So maybe up to 15 grams, especially if they haven't used it for a while, then back down to 10.
But that's the high end there.
Yes. I don't like
because
to go
there was
50.
people that were, start out for 30 to 40 grams in your first 2 weeks. Yeah. And then to me, that was just a ploy to just burn through your creatine.
No, I know a lot of power lifters that like to go higher. But for me, 15 is pretty much the limit. Okay. And then the maintenance is around 10.
Got it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Will your supplements ever come to Canada?
Yes, they're already there. Yay. The first Canada product is now been approved. EVPAQ has landed in Canada. So
you guys you don't have to drink maple syrup before your workouts anymore. You can stop. They still will.
They still will. People will still do all kinds of crazy things before their pre-workout, but before their workout. But the first product is there, and several others have been approved. We're just waiting on the labels, because for those of you that are in Canada that are listening to this, let us know. Let us know who you are down below, because I want to see how many of you are Canadian listeners. Go into the comments on YouTube and let us know. But we have gotten approval on several products. The first one that has been released has been shipped and has also started seeing activity within certain stores are in Canada right now.
Awesome.
At least AQ, and then some of the others to follow. But it has been a long process.
Takes a lot.
It does.
Yeah, with all of the different regulations and everything up there.
Yep.
This one is less of a question, more of an order from somebody.
Sure.
Tell us the shortcuts.
To what?
I don't know.
Just tell us the shortcuts.
Yeah. I'm not sure what
through the drive-through. I mean,
I'm not sure.
Supersize by number 6.
And I mean, they could have phrased it a little bit nicer, but they just want to know.
They just want secrets.
They want to know.
It's usually shortcuts or secrets.
Yeah.
I think the secrets. They want the secrets. We're going to hold that one off for another episode.
Yes.
Please be a little bit more elaborate in your questioning.
The next episode will simply just be the shortcuts.
The shortcuts. Yes.
Yeah. There we go.
No, the secrts.
Oh,
I'm telling you, isn't that a book? The Secret.
It is a book. Yeah.
The Secret.
All right. So moving on to some actual questions. Would you train men and women the same as far as training program wise?
Absolutely not. No. You're not going to put a bikini competitor under 2 plates and just get her to do Smith machine squats.
Yeah.
It did happen to my wife. we're going to bring Farina's on here.
Yes.
Because people have been asking about that, because we teased it a long time ago. And even before we moved to Dallas. And I think that would be really good to give some stories.
We need her to put some Q&A ones out and have people ask her some of the questions that they want to know about you.
I don't know. But I think that all in all, no, you have to have something that's very specific. You're going to be hitting a lot more gluten ham day. You're going to be doing things that are going to really work around your lower body for the most part, especially if you're like wellness. If your upper body is going to be more balanced, it needs to be more balanced. You can throw in some more upper body days, but you're really going to focus on that lower body for the most part. I'm generalizing here, but you're not going to go out and do deadlifts. You're not going to be out there doing a lot of things unless you're more in the women's bodybuilding or women's physique division category. That could be a possibility. But again, I'm generalizing, but you're not going to focus on the same types of things that you would as an open bodybuilder. So you shouldn't be taking your boyfriend's training program that was written up by some online guru and say, I'm going to do the same thing. Yeah. Now, you can make a variation of it. For example, my program, there's a lot of women that use FST7 programs because they like the fact that you don't have to use heavy weight. You use a moderate weight, especially on a woman, and be able to really get rounder shoulders if you're in figure, or if you are women's physique division and you really want to get those shoulders bigger, they can do that. Or if they want to work on their lower body and they're in bikini, or they're in, let's say, wellness, and they want to increase blood flow, they can get that mind muscle connection using FST7 sets for those body parts. But you're not going to generalize and say, I'm going to do this hardcore Kai Green type of training program and be a bikini competitor,
Yeah.
but you can take techniques from certain types of programs and be able to put it all together in your own. So, but you're going to use, like, if you notice, most of the women out there, Laura Lee and a lot of these people, they're working on just really a ton of glute training.
Yeah.
There's so many different variations. Janet does it, you know, they're really focusing on that lower body, and they're looking at finding different ways of being able to really get that glute hamstring together. Or if it's a little bit bigger division, lower body and wellness, they're going to try to get their quads fuller, so you could see the quads from behind and try to fill in those gaps. But it's not something that you're going to turn around and say, I'm going to do the same thing for my upper body in any of those divisions. They're not doing heavy back movements. They're not doing any of those things. You see normally on Instagram, they're doing things that are targeting they're hard to, the hard spots to get in that come in last on these women. And I think that's what you need to really understand and build a program around, normally quads, glutes and hams, those types of
They're just completely different goals.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Weak upper chest. What's the best training split to maximize chest gains?
Man, so this is the third or fourth time this week that it's been upper chest, to the point where I always tell people, if you really want a really good upper chest, really get strong with your incline dumbbell presses. If you can focus on that and keep your shoulders back and really push with that upper pec, you're going to see a lot of benefit in trying to build that shelf.
Saw you do that a lot with David.
Yes.
It's improved a lot.
Yeah. David's improved quite a bit.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. He's natural. He's getting ready for his first show. He's 173 pounds, I think, this morning at 5'10". He's doing his first show. He's 19 years old. He's also a teenager. And I think that when you look at it, a lot of the same things are going to be said for somebody who's an intermediate or an advanced guy. It's like, if you are only doing 90 or 100 pound dumbbell incline presses and you're supposed to be an open guy, chances are you're not going to have the best chest in the world.
Yeah.
So that being said, trying to get to 120 is going to make a lot of difference, especially if they're clean reps. We're not talking about like dirty reps where your workout partner's getting an arm pump spotting you. We're talking about getting your strength up to the point where you're doing the same number of reps that you were doing with 90 to 100 pounds at 120 pounds. You will see a difference in the muscle size because what?
Bigger muscle is a stronger muscle. A stronger muscle is a bigger muscle. So,
and vice versa.
Vice versa.
Right?
Yeah.
So when you're doing those exercises, it's really key to be able to focus on form. But you do want to focus on trying to get stronger. Keep those in the beginning of your workout after you warm up. And I think I'm going to go ahead and do an update on my app for chest, where it's going to be for chest, maybe chest and arms, because those are the two body parts that people want the most. So I think I'm going to focus on that for my next update, so that it's going to be a chest and arm focused. You'll still get all the other body parts, but have that for like an 8-week focus, because I've literally had that question asked to me 4 or 5 times. So I'm going to go ahead and work on that. Yeah. Good question. Good question.
Yeah,
but
it's a great question.
Yeah, that's where it's at. And again, don't forget, be careful for those that love to do barbell flat press, barbell bench press. Be careful. If you start getting over a certain amount of weight, let's just say 300 pounds, and sometimes even lower than that, you have a high likelihood of tearing a pec. So be very, very careful with barbell flat bench press, the #1 pec tear exercise in the world, bar none. Pardon the pun.
Bar none. I gotcha.
So if you like to do it and you want to go heavy and you really want to feel your chest, use dumbbells.
Got it. All right. Can a type 2 diabetic compete in bodybuilding competitions?
Another good question.
Yeah.
Type 2 diabetic, absolutely. So there's, I believe, was it Jason Poston, who's type 1 diabetic. So you have type 2, you have type 1. As long as you are controlling your blood sugar, checking things with your doctor, it's really important, especially if you've never done this before, to really work with your doctor, because sometimes diabetics have different issues with their diabetes, hyperglycemia. So what needs to happen is you need to understand how your body is being affected by the exercise, or if you start running PEDs, and how that's going to affect your blood sugar as well. So, because that can exacerbate your diabetes. So you just make sure, #1, you review things with your doctor and you monitor things and things can be adjusted. I've seen some people that are type 2 that end up having to lower their dose of glucophage, metformin glucophage, or glyburide, or any of those types of medications because they've done it. And I'm not telling people to go do this. I'm just saying is that I've noticed that when their body fat goes down and then their ability to be able to break down blood sugar, their blood sugars, they're able to do that as they've eaten better, done cardio, and just gotten overall healthier.
Yeah.
But again, always check with your doctor. Always check with your doctor. But there should be no reason, but you should check with your doctor first to be able to compete while being diabetic, because I have seen people do it.
Yeah.
But always check with your doctor.
So yeah, the big one of the day, because obviously there's a lot of them around, a lot of the questions, but everybody wants to know if you have any updates on Hadi.
Yeah, Hadi Choopan. So what I'm going to do is I will see if I can give a little bit of a sneak peek, maybe add in some video to some of the things that he sends me that he doesn't post. So I'll see if I can do that. If I can't, then I'll try to do it on the next episode. But he has been training extremely hard. He's done some physique updates lately. Maybe Tim can pull up some of those where he's put on some more size. His thickness and size has been elevated. He's put on about...
He's so dense.
He is dense. He is dense, and he's training really hard. I think that the key, because it's so hard because we're not training together.
Yeah.
And people say, well, why don't you do more content with Hadi? Well, he's in Iran. He's in Shiraz. For those that don't realize how difficult this is, it's just not just a language barrier that we deal with, because I do speak Farsi, so I can send him things, but I don't type Farsi.
Yeah.
So then he has to either give it to his son or he has to give it to his wife to listen to my Farsi, my English, my Americanized Farsi. And because I speak in a very Americanized Farsi, is then he turns around and then we'll have it translated to him and says, you know, Hany says this, this, and this. So there's some different layers to it. But the biggest issue is the fact we're not together, because if you see all the videos of us prepping for the shows, he's here.
Yeah.
And with the fact that he can't just come here whenever he wants, you know, you see Big Rammy training with Dennis James, they could be, you know, anywhere and meet up. They don't have these kinds of problems. And I think that it's really difficult, and it's kind of sad, because I wish that we had the ability to actually train whenever we wanted to. And now we always have to do things around the Olympia because we have such a small window of time together.
How soon before the Olympia can he come out? Actually?
It just depends. It all depends on this whole visa process, because they give a small window. And so it's yet to be determined.
Got it.
But in the past, it's been several weeks where we've done anywhere from 1.5 days, i.e. 2020.
Wow.
He literally came out a day and a half before the Olympia.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. A day and a half before the Olympia. He was there. He was still holding water from the flight right before prejudging, where we had to like turn his water and everything because he had such a long flight getting into Orlando. So that was like a day and a half prior to the event. And then we've had it where even last year where he was able to come longer, where it was like 3 or 4 weeks. So that was really nice to be able to train, shoot content, show the people out there what he's doing, because he's so behind the wall over there, because he's not in Dubai. He's not here. He's not in just somewhere that's accessible. So with all those things being said, he still does a great job training by himself, and I'm doing the best I can to be able to coach him remotely on what to do, what not to do, because what not to do is to go out there and just throw around a lot of heavy weight, because he's super strong, but it's always like, hey, back it off 10 or 20% and make that form 20 to 30% better. Get the contraction, get the mind muscle connection, make sure that you're pausing mid rep. All of those things are super important.
And like, what would you say? How would you say he's feeling right now, if in recent updates and everything, where we're sitting from the Olympia?
I think that he's in the best off season he's ever been in. I think that he's heavier and he's still super conditioned. And I feel that he is really hungry to be able to take his physique to another level for this year. So he's more focused than ever. It's just a shame that we can't really highlight that as much. So I'm trying to get more footage of him. Some of the things that he's been sharing with me privately, like just sends me on WhatsApp and whatnot, where I can turn around and be able to give you guys a little bit more in regards to updates. But he has been doing a lot of stuff on his own page as well, which with Evogen Iran, and doing a lot of those updates and sharing them through that channel as well. But it's different than him being here because it just really makes things 10 times more, just the less friction.
Yep. Yeah. Time difference, travel, all that stuff. It's a lot.
It's just that we go to the gym. Yeah. Like you'd see me, we'd go in Campbell, San Jose, we'd go to the, 49er Fit, or we'd go wherever we'd go. And then we'd train, we'd post stuff up live. We'd post stuff up on stories, we'd post up stuff for YouTube, and it would just be just this really cool ebb and flow. And we get to see him progress, and he trains super hard, and then we get to document it. But now it's just a shame that we can't do that because it's just the accessibility is very, very difficult. But we're hoping to be able to get some bits and pieces to be able to share with everybody. Oh
yeah. You guys best believe the second that we're able to get him here, we'll be getting as much content as humanly possible.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, a lot of really good questions. Again, just remember, for those of you that are asking about the app, I know that a lot of you are asking about Android. We are working on it. It is now starting production of the Android version of the FST7 app. So just hang tight if you have an Android phone. If you have an Apple phone and you're on iOS, then it is available now. I put the link below on my app. And if you want to see something specific or you have some feedback on the app, then go ahead and please put that in the comments as well, because I'm listening to as many comments as I can, and good or bad. And I want to be able to make a better product for you guys. So thank you, Austin. Yeah, it was a really good Q&A, and that's the truth.